Morning, sisters and brothers. We're here for a quick video. It's got to be a quick video because I don't got long. But certainly what we're going to discuss, we can make a really more involved discussion on this, maybe at some future point, because I'm probably not going to say everything I need to say. It seems like I have to put out a lot of words in order to finally hit the thoughts that I want to hit. So it's just going to be a quick kind of overview of Antinomian and how it led us in the Old Testament to really discover what the modern day term that they call the Antichrist truly is about. Anti means against, nomian is law. So in the Old Testament, we discovered that she was sent from above to teach them the laws of heaven, and that man rejected that. So that brings you to the term Antichrist, right? The Antichristos, the anti-anointed one, the one that was never anointed to hold the law of God. God says, you're not fit to hold my statutes on your tongue. She's talking about the modern day religion of man making laws and really yoking his sister and putting her under bondage. And we've discovered all of those. So it does take us to that term, the Antinomian, which is truly your Antichrist. He is the one writing laws against her. And she was sent with the laws of heaven, and he denied that covenant. Now that's what that's the encapsulation of it all. And so you'll hit those terms actually in the New Testament. Here we go. The Antinomian. And I'll put these links down below because this is going to be real quick. 8703 Antinomianism, a form of spiritual anarchy, which rejects the laws as having any place in, they got the Christian life, as having any place in the life of man, woman. And the spiritual anarchy was him going against her. That's really what it was. And so we get Beelzebub, named the title of, Satan, the leader of demons. And that term Baal is a name for your husband, we realize. The accuser who accused her so he could take control of her law system is what it gained for him. And then he writes and he writes and he writes and he puts all these yokes on her, all these yokes, all these laws upon her neck that he can't carry himself. He just ain't that strong. Man allows himself to go. He doesn't have to enforce self-control over his own body. He don't have to enforce self-control over his own mind and his own thoughts, especially when it comes to her. He don't have to enforce thoughts of his own hate and his own anger. He don't have to keep none of that in control. And we can bear witness to it every day. We've got violence. We've got rape. We've got wars. We've got, you name it. We've got it, and it's all to do with him having no control. He has absolutely no control, and yet he'll put these moral laws as the moral police on her and try to enforce them on her and allow himself to reign freely. That's what this antinomian, this antichrist has done in this system. And the making of male idols, which you bear witness to by the kings in Daniel 2 of every successive kingdom. Building up this idol of man has empowered him to place those laws upon her neck when she was the one sent to give him the laws of heaven. Now, we've discovered that through hard study and through many years of climbing to reach those points in our understanding, which you are permitted to do, which man on the pulpit was said, don't you dare, don't you dare, don't you dare. Oh, that's just the idol telling you, trying to keep that yoke on your neck, telling you he's his head. He is not your head. He never was your head. It's about following the laws. So let's go to Strong's Greek, 5547, Christos. It means anointed one, the Messiah. They'll say the Christ. The Christ. And so immediately your name's going to go to Jesus. Jesus is Baal, the idol that these men built on to keep. And we discovered that he's actually the feet. Jesus is the feet of the idol that keeps it standing. And women as the harlot spirit in the land, bowing to that, building it up. And the harlot that inhabits the heart of man that allows him to be the head. Bel is head, Baal, head of Babylon, we're told in Jeremiah 50:51. So we know who's the head here. Man, playing God, is the head of this harlot's kingdom, which is the false foundation laid in that will be disannulled, this wicked covenant that a woman had bowing to a man, building his house up. And I know a lot of women, and a man can do no wrong. Oh, they'll say a few words against man just to seem like they're part of the crowd. When you get right down to it in their heart of hearts, they've got him built up, and don't you dare, woman, don't you dare, us women are this. And, women are willing to admit to their own faults so easily that they think by readily admitting to their faults when he won't admit to his. No, he can't admit he's a man being built up. You've built him up, and he really believes in those lies. And so it really's got to come down to the women coming away from this idol built up first by man and his violence, right? So Anointed Messiah. This one is the Strong's Hebrew 4899. Anointed Messiah from Mashiach, anointed, usually a consecrated person as a king, a priest, or a saint. No, it's not a king, a priest, or a saint. That's not what it tells us. What does it tell us in this verse right quickly? What does it say in Psalm 83:3? Now, this one gave me some trouble. I had to really think on what did it mean, because a lot of us take it wrong, and I did too in the beginning. So in Psalm 83:3, it says, with cunning they scheme against your people and conspire against those you cherish. Let's go to the King James. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. So here we get this term hidden ones. Let's go here. Do not be still, O God. So we'll begin at verse 2. It says, see how your enemies rage, how your foes have reared their heads. With cunning they scheme against your people, and they conspire against those you cherish, against your hidden ones, saying, come, let us erase them as a nation, and may the name of Israel be remembered no more. And the true name of Israel was forgotten. It was the daughters. But why do we know this is kings that has taken crafty counsel? Because if we go to Psalm 2, what does it say? It says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? What's the vain thing? Idol of man as God. The people here are the men that imagined it and then took the control of the next generation of little girls after they murdered the wise women on the cornerstones, offering up a blood libation as opposed to the water libation, telling God, we will not follow in your pathway of law off your daughters' tongues. We will make our own laws. And so they take control of the next generations of little girls. We've discussed this with the name of Mordecai. It means follower of Marduk. Marduk was another name for your solar calf deity, straight out of the land of Egypt. I have to keep reiterating this for any newbies. And then that idol becomes over centuries that follows, or over decades that follows, it becomes known as Baal. Baal is another name for your husband as Lord and God. God says, you changed my glory over to that which eateth grass, which was that bull gold idol out of Egypt that they conceived to make so they would bow down, and they begin to shape this story. And we see that all in the Old Testament when we get a handle on it, and we have understood it. So what we see is Mordecai raising up his little niece, whatever she was, Esther, and teaching her to what? To bow to a king. And this is where the law of Baal took shape, because we read in the verses that the decree that the king with his 7 wicked advisors make after Vashti had the nerve to balk at this drunken king and say, no, you're not gonna treat me in this manner. All right. And Vashti means most excellent woman. It does. And so what do they take? What do they decide to start to take? They start to take little girls. That's what they start to do with the next generation, and teach them how to bow to a king, which is what Mordecai was doing with Esther. He was teaching her how to bow to a king. What's the decree and the edict that gets made in this very book, very important book, where God from now on goes silent? She's tired of these men fighting against her. What do they decree? That every woman, wife, from the greatest to the least in the kingdom, would bow to her Baal. And the word is Baal there, her husband, as Lord and God is your basic understanding, because that's exactly what the harlot spirit does. They're bowing up, they're bringing up their bridegroom and bowing to him. And by doing so, it gives power to the man in this world. All you got to do is open your eyes and look around to see that. It's pretty easy to understand, but most don't want to use these to weigh the word up. Your ears are called your scales in the Bible, where you evenly weigh up the word, and the word of God is going to reason and make sense. So this king decreed that every woman would bow, from the least to the greatest in the kingdom of the women, to the least to the greatest to the least of the men in the kingdom. They would bow. So they took basically all of our rights away from us, saying it was the king's right to do so. What do we get here in Psalm 2? Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against not his anointed, her anointed, saying what? What do they say in the next verse? The kings and their counselors. What counselors? These wicked counselors in the book of Esther, saying, make all the women submit to her husband and say he's her head. Why do you think the New Testament reiterates it? It is not a law from God. It is a law from a king, a wicked king in the Old Testament who got built up on his own power. He got drunk on it, is what you see. And that's why you get these priests spewing vomit on the tables. In Isaiah 28, they had got drunk on their own power, which was an admixtures of light in the cup. That's your Red Sea allegory. They began to mix it, and it just became this cup of chaos and of lies. And we're going to take a look again, a second look at that Red Sea parting into these two allegories and how we can look at it very differently. I've already got that video made. I've been reconsidering remaking it. I'm not sure, but it'll be posted probably sometime next week. But these kings got drunk on their power, and so we see the priests in Isaiah 28 spewing this vomit, which then becomes the filth. If you look the word filth up there, it's human excrement, which is another word for Baal, Lord of dung, husbands, Lord of dung. He began to wash the daughters in this filth. When the well of water was to come from her tongue, the water, the pure cleansing water, we see often that word with the word semen in it. When you look the word water, some men gets this on their head. Oh, it's us, it's our water. No, it says right out that he peed in her water, and he did some nasty things to her water. He actually cut off the flow of the upper pool, which was to come off the daughter's tongue, the law. So we get the kings here, so we know who's being referenced in Psalm 83 when we go back to it. So why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, that's a picture of Daniel 2, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against her anointed one, saying, let us break their bands asunder, their laws, their 10 commandments, and cast away their cords from us. She that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. The Lord hears daughter Zion's number 136. She's going to have them in derision. The one enthroned in heaven laughs, and the Lord ridicules them. So we know that the one who laughs here and mocks is another word here for laugh, I believe, takes you back to Proverbs, wisdom. She says, when I came with my instructions, my laws, and you rejected me, and you could not hear reason, I'm going to laugh at you in the day of your calamity. This is what your religious lies will bring on your head. When you failed to follow the way of God, which was a law system off of the righteous daughter's tongue, and you divided my pleasant land, and then took in covenant a harlot spirit so you could rule, and exalt the harlot in your heart. Isaiah 47, no one sees me, she says. I will never be widowless. I will never be childless. She's hid in his heart. So he thinks, but he fell into that snare he laid a long time ago. I forget my thought where I was going. So in Proverbs 1, she says, because you couldn't hearken and you end up making man God, you've actually ended up with these multi-sword is your idea, multi-worded religions, right? Swords that point, that eventually she says, oh, you'll turn on one another, and I'm going to mock and I'm going to laugh at you in the day of your calamity. You're going to bring on your own demise if you don't actually turn it around and start to listen. So we can take who's sitting here back to actually Proverbs 1, the one that came with instructions. She says, I will laugh in the day of your calamity. I will. So here they turned on her anointed one, which is not a son. It's the daughter of a woman known as Israel, the daughters. So back here in Psalm 83:3, what does it say? It says, see how your enemies rage, how your foes have reared their heads, the kings. And here they're rearing their heads. So we get the term lift up the head. You can get it. The word arrogant can mean in a very bad way, or it can mean to lift your head up in a good way and finally take your stand. So we get her, daughter Zion, the Lord that sits to the right hand of the anointed male, 113, and that's the Lord's number. David's often called Lord, 113. And so the Lord's number that sits there, but to the left of him is his mother. And so to her right is her right hand. And that's her son and her daughter. And the daughter is the sovereign that is appointed, and she lifts up the head. She trusts she can drink the river Jordan up. She's understanding the truth is what she's doing, the water, the law, the truth of it all. And there she will strike through kings in the day of not his wrath, her wrath. It's her wrath playing out because he yoked her under a religious lie and law system is what it is telling us. So with cunning, they who? The kings who built this male idol up. They scheme against your people, against who? The daughters of Israel, and conspire against those you cherish, your hidden ones, saying, come, let us erase them as a nation. May the name of Israel be remembered no more. What Israel is not being remembered here? It's Ephraim not being remembered. The daughter, it's the feminine blessing that is not remembered, and that the law was to come off of her tongue. Let her be remembered no more. So what we actually come away with the hidden ones is they actually wanted them hidden. They wanted them buried. They wanted the knowledge of these daughters, knowing who they were and what their purpose in the earth was. They wanted that purpose hidden from them. And they conspired and they schemed in cunning, like you see them doing in Jeremiah 23, the wicked imaginations of their heart. And they began to prophesy through Baal, through these daughters, this next generation of little girls that were growing up to women, and they were actually teaching this religious lie and basically handing their vineyard, their children over to the teaching of the man, Adam the accuser, Satan the accuser. And we're going to see him fall like lightning off of the throne that never belonged to him. She says to her daughter in Isaiah 52, take the yoke, the religious lie and law system off of your neck and take your throne back. See, we saw the Lord sitting on the throne, the enthroned one. And she lost that throne when the harlot spirit was exalted to the hosts of the heaven, to the children. All those children out there. And the harlot spirit, through man's devious, wicked imaginations, thinking he could play God and never get caught in it, by these hidden ones who actually finally awakens to who they are. And mother promises her daughter she will awaken them at the end to take back her throne and to take the yoke. Come and let us erase them as a nation. May the name of Israel be remembered no more. This is your Antinomians, your kings rising up. God says, you didn't want me, you wanted a king, and now you have a king. Jesus telling you that man's your head. Why do you think man wrote a law system all around himself and make sure women have no rights? And they'll toss you a few along the way and say those are rights, but to make sure they leave in all their own rights that, well, they're not real rights, but they are because they have no self-control. They do not need to control their wicked body and forms. And we know that this is true when you look at the AIs that they're creating. They're creating sex robots, for Pete's sake. They want women just these empty husks. They don't want you to have a brain. They don't want you to have emotions because they can't control their own physical bodies. They can't control their emotions, their hate, their anger, their violence. They have let themselves go. So they keep legalizing prostitution. They keep legalizing pornography and all these wicked things that keep a woman debased and at his feet because he can't control himself. And yet they tried to portray her as dizzy-headed. And says, long time have I held my peace. You know why she held her peace? Because she's examining everything. And it says, she discovers the blood guilt is what she discovers, right? Under this law. So the idea is the spirit in the beginning came to teach him the law. She fell asleep. She went to sleep, goes to sleep in this religious lie and law, and at the end she was promised to rise up and put it all back on their head. Well, in the beginning, when it's all being shaped, and you can't see this clear perspective that now we can see at the end. We can actually take note of what's going on in every country of the world, and we can lead it back to one thing: women's rights. And you could say no, but that's at the core of man and the hate and the wickedness in his heart. He says, I can't help but laugh because, women will say, well, why would we want relationships with these men who are violent, wicked, and think they're your head, think they have a right to tell you what you can and cannot do, which was never from God. That's from the heart of a wicked man. And then you got men going, you see why men don't date women? That's the narcissist. That's what the narcissists do. They always play the victim. That's what they do. They can't help it. That's their, what did it say, the card that they're holding in their hand to just bring it all back, what you say. Because they've got nothing to really think with. All they got is their emotions, their anger, their hate, their jealousy against you and your ability to calmly reason the truth out. So they say, come, let us erase them, the daughters of Israel, that the name of Israel be remembered no more. Well, we know Israel is in existence. What are they talking about here? They're talking about the feminine aspect, which is Ephraim that you find in Hosea. So do I still have that up? I probably don't. I did pull up Hosea 13. Yeah, I don't think I do have it up anymore. But it's Hosea 14, I believe. Let me see. I'll just read this and then I'll be gone. So I'll post the links of antinomianism. It means they went against her law, the Anointed One's law, which was found with the daughters. It was not a son. He had no right to hold the laws of heaven. He actually was supposed to support that covenant. And so he perjured himself in the courts of heaven. He basically lied. Yeah, so here it is. Oh, okay, so just a second here. So, and it does, it absolutely tells us what's going on here. So Hosea 14, verse 8 and 9, we'll read right quick. So when I said balls and bulbs of the tree, I was pointing to round as in planets, right? Bulbs, Christmas bulbs, Christmas balls. They're round like a ball. At least the ones I used to put on my tree, I still do. I love lights. I'm a sucker for lights. Ephraim shall say, what have I to do any more with idols? Idols, here is your male idols that the kings took decree against Ephraim. Ephraim is another name for Israel, the north kingdom, which is where the female blessing came from, which this is absolutely verified by what follows. What have I to do any more with their male idols? I have heard her wisdom, and I have observed her. I am like a green fir tree, and from me is thy fruit found. But my own vineyard have I not kept. I'm going to keep it from now on. Who is wise? Verse 9. And she shall understand these things. Prudent, and she shall know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and just shall walk in them. But the transgressors, you find them transgressing her laws in Isaiah 24, shall fall therein. That comes back to your idol worshippers of these kings making a male idol in Daniel 2. All the women, the next generation of daughters that they took control of because they murdered the wise women. Yeah, so we understood all of this, but we get the fir tree here. We know she's also the light of the world. She's spoken as the light of the world in Isaiah 49. So there we go. There's a quick video. This is your antinomian, is your Antichrist that's about to rise or has risen, been risen for a very long time. Women, it's a cyclic event until we determine that we're done with this. We're done with this creation of man. If you don't want to receive that law and that covenant, then he's going to have to simply be cut away. That's what you do with wickedness. And you see it in society. There are those that you just cannot understand this truth because they have no heart to want to understand this truth. And we know God is a God of fairness, truth, and equity. God would never demand that her daughters bow to a man as Lord God. God would, however, want you to follow the ways of God. Long time have I been restrained, the Holy Spirit. Now will I go forth. I will travail. I will go forth and travail like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. I will lead you in pathways that you have not known. That's the parting of the Red Sea. We're going to take a look at that in a slightly different allegory in the next video. So, thanks for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day. And I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. I hope you're all growing in your own personal anointings. I pray that for each and every one who is weighing up the truth with your ears by what you hear, what you see, and are longing to understand what that little book sealed up in the Bible is, and we are breaking it down, have broke it down to the most part, I think. And so I pray the Lord continues to bless you in your own personal anointings and with the word. And thanks again for watching. And I better go find my camera first. And I hope you all have a lovely day. Thanks.